He was 9 years old the first time it happened. His father pressed the pedal hard on an on-ramp, and something surged, a pull deep in the chest. He stared at the back of his father's hands on the wheel and made a choice he didn't even know he was making. One day, those would be his hands. He couldn't have explained it. The important choices never explain themselves. They just settle inside you and wait. This is where every tuner is born. Not with a wrench, with a feeling that doesn't yet have a name. By 13, he still couldn't drive, but he had a phone, and the phone held every engine bay ever filmed. He watched a stranger in a garage halfway across the world bolt a turbo onto something old and ugly, and he felt it move again. He learned the words before he understood them. Boost, compression, timing. He said them to friends who didn't care. He drew cars in the corners of his school books while teachers called him distracted. He wasn't distracted. He had never been more focused in his life. The watching wasn't wasted. The watching was the first layer going down. Then came the car. 16 years old, the cheapest thing that still turned over. Rust where rust should never be, a rattle he would learn to ignore. He dragged it into a space that was barely a garage, hung a single light from the ceiling, and started. He didn't know what he was doing. Say that plainly, because everyone pretends they did. He stripped a bolt, lost 40 minutes digging it out. He connected a hose backward, and the engine shook like it was dying until he found his own mistake. Every error cost him time he didn't have, and money he had even less of. But every error taught him something no video ever could. The first modification was an intake. It made no real power, it just sounded like it did. At 16, that was everything. He sat in the driveway with the engine running and felt like he'd changed the car. He had. He'd changed something inside himself. At 18, he found the meets. A parking lot on a Sunday evening, 40 cars, and a culture he never knew existed. The first night, he knew nobody. He parked beside a slammed hatch, and the owner walked over and asked about his setup. They talked for an hour. The crowd taught him what the garage never could. He saw builds he'd never imagined. He learned the difference between work that's good and work that only looks good. Someone told him his fitment was wrong in a way he couldn't see himself. Someone warned him about his brakes before he lowered again. The honesty felt brutal until he understood it was respect. Nobody is polite about a bad build because politeness would be an insult. When they take the time to tell you what's broken, it means they believe you can fix it. His builds got cleaner after that. Not wilder, cleaner. Because restraint is harder than excess, and he was finally starting to feel that. At 20, someone invited him to a real circuit. He went expecting to go fast. He discovered he didn't know how to drive his own car. An experienced driver rode along for 3 laps and said almost nothing. Then, quietly, he named 3 things. He braked too early. He carried too much speed into corners and threw it all away on exit. His hands were tense, and the whole car could feel it. Driving fast on the road and driving on a track are not the same thing. One is listening to music, the other is playing it. One is passive, the other asks for everything. He modified differently after that day. Pads that survive heat, fluid that won't boil, tires because grip is everything and everything else comes second. He stripped weight out without hesitation. The car got faster, he got faster. The two happened together, and you cannot separate them. A fast car under an undeveloped driver is just a quicker way to make the same mistakes. By 23, the first car was gone. He sold it to someone who reminded him of himself and bought a platform with a real ceiling, all-wheel drive, turbocharged from the factory. This time he built it properly, not because he couldn't before, but because now he knew what properly meant. Every modification had a reason. The turbo, because the factory unit couldn't flow what he was asking for.
The fuel system, because more power demands more fuel. The intercooler, because hot air is thin air, and thin air is lost power. Every change connected to the next. He tuned the engine management himself for the first time. He lost 2 whole weekends to the software. Then he made one change, logged the data, saw the result, and something shifted. The engine is inputs and outputs. The computer is the translator. Tuning is making that translation more honest. He'd been a passenger in this his whole life. Suddenly, he was in the room where it happens. The car made a real number on a real dyno with a chart behind it. He drove it home in the most focused 30 minutes of his life. By 26, people knew his name. Not famous, known. They recognized his car at events. They shared his work. He started helping others, not for money, but because a problem was interesting, or because someone trusted him with their car. A friend's build had been tuned by 3 different people and still ran rough under boost. He spent a Saturday with a laptop and a sensor, working slowly, and found a vacuum leak so small that 3 people had missed it. The car ran clean for 2 years. That's when he understood. Building is its own skill. Diagnosing is another. Building is knowing how things should fit together. Diagnosing is knowing why they didn't, and that only comes from seeing enough failure to recognize its face.
He'd seen enough now. At 29, he did it for money, consistently. That's the difference. The small space, a lift, share dyno time down the street, a waiting list. The professional world revealed what the garage never could. When it's your own car, you accept your own risk. When it's someone else's, the standard is absolute. The gap between a tune that works and a tune that's right is invisible to almost everyone. It became the thing he cared about most. People brought him cheap builds, tuned badly. Some were fixable, some were dangerous, and he had to say things people didn't want to hear. He'd watched too many engines die from bad decisions to stay quiet. He was no longer someone with a good build. He was someone with a practice. A build is an outcome. A practice is a standard you hold across every single one. At 33, he had his own shop, 3 bays, 2 lifts, his own dyno, 2 employees, one he had trained from almost nothing, now better than he'd been at that age because he'd had someone to learn from. People drove hours to reach him. He turned down builds that weren't right for reasons the customer couldn't see. Always a hard conversation, but it protected something worth more than money. He taught now, workshops, seminars, writing read by people learning the craft. 15 years of knowledge moved faster through others because he handed it over, instead of making each of them rediscover it alone. The business was harder than the mechanics ever were. Invoices, insurance, equipment failing exactly when he could least afford it. He solved it the way he solved everything, systematically, assuming every problem has a solution if you understand it correctly. At 38, the car in his shop was going to hold a record. Not almost, he knew. He'd run the math hundreds of times, every part chosen without compromise. He'd built the engine himself over 9 months, not because he had to, but because nobody else would know it the way he did. Record day came. The first run didn't do it. The second revealed something the data had hidden, a fuel inconsistency at the top of 4th gear. He fixed it that evening. The next day, the car ran clean, and the record fell by a margin that surprised even him. He didn't post about it. He drove home. He sat in the kitchen with something hot and thought about that first cheap car in that barely a garage with one light hanging from the ceiling. The distance was almost impossible to measure, and yet the logic was perfectly clear. Every step followed the one before it. Every mistake became knowledge. Every car taught him what the last one couldn't. At 42, he had trained people who now had shops of their own. A car he built sat in a museum. He spoke to engineers who designed the very cars he learned on.
He still did the work himself, not all of it, but the builds that mattered he stayed close to. Because the moment you stop touching the work, the knowledge drifts from real to theoretical, and theoretical knowledge in a shop is a danger he refused to carry. And somewhere right now, there is a 9-year-old in a back seat feeling a pull in his chest he can't name yet. He'll watch the videos, he'll buy the cheap car, he'll strip the bolt and feel stupid, and one day he'll get it right and feel the thing that points him forward for 20 years. Most of them figure it out. Some reach the rank he reached. A few go further, because they'll learn what he learned, and then they'll learn what he didn't. That's how it's supposed to work.